Okay, we are a regular meeting of the Darien Police Commission, our 2,411th. We'll call that to order. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes of April 29th, 2021. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Correspondence, none. Is that still the case?
That's still the case.
Okay, well, moving on. Department activity. Captain?
Yes. This activity report is from the period of April 27th to May 19th. On April 27th, a 43-year-old Reading woman turned herself in after learning this agency held an active warrant for her arrest. The arrest stemmed from a single-car accident she was involved in on March 7th. During the incident, she fought with officers on scene and was later determined to be under the influence. She was charged with DWI and interfering with an officer and released on a $500 court-set bond. On May 1st, a Durian resident reported that a bicycle valued at $1,200 was stolen while visiting the Avalon property at 137 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. On May 4th, a Post Road resident reported that they fell victim to check fraud after a check they had mailed at the Durian post office had been altered and deposited to a name they were not familiar with. The check had been mailed by the victim in January of this year. On May 10th, a Norwalk resident had her wallet stolen from her handbag, which was left unattended in her cart while shopping at Trader Joe's. On May 12th, a Georgian Lane resident reported that a check that had been confirmed delivered to her mailbox had been stolen. On May 14th, a Darien resident stated he fell victim to a money wiring scam while using the app Zelle and WhatsApp. The victim believed he was interacting with a friend, however, funds were transferred to an unknown subject. 35-year-old Darien man was arrested on 3 separate occasions for misdemeanor offenses over the past week. On May 13th, at approximately 3 p.m., he was arrested for criminal trespass and larceny 6 for stealing beer from Stop and Shop. On May 13th, at approximately 11 p.m., he was arrested again for criminal trespass for being on the property of 22 Center Street, which he had previously been advised that he could not. On May 15th, at approximately 2:45 p.m., he was again arrested for criminal trespass and larceny 6 for again stealing beer from Stop and Shop. Over the past 2 weeks, numerous officers received training in various areas. The first week of May, several of our first-line supervisors attended a virtual First Amendment Right Summit. 3 additional patrol officers attended a week-long crisis intervention training and are now CIT certified. On May 13th, several members of our detective division attended an advanced death investigation training class. Members of our domestic violence liaison attended training specializing in strangulation in domestic violence investigations. And yesterday, our patrol staff began annual active shooter and baton use training. Over the past 2 weeks, we had 7 overnight burglaries of unlocked cars and 2 stolen cars which were unlocked and had the keys in them. 24 motor vehicle accidents over the past 2 weeks, 9 which involved minor injuries, 2 involved pedestrians, a pedestrian and a bicycle. And then last night, unfortunately, we did have a serious crash late last night that involved serious injuries, which the Darien Police Action Investigation Team has taken over that investigation.
That crash was on Hollow Tree Ridge Road in the stretch between Oxridge Lane and Allwood. In the area of Timber or Rockwell, it was a single vehicle collision. 2 occupants. They hit some stone walls and ended up hitting a tree. Doesn't appear that the injuries are life-threatening at this point, although it did not look as good last night, so fortunately, there's not going to be any life-altering events for the occupant or the operator. So the AIT team is following up today with both the operator and the passenger and has to determine the causal factors, and potential for enforcement action is forthcoming.
Okay. Old business. COVID-19 update. We got to be almost done with this.
Well, I'm hoping maybe this is the last time we have to put a COVID-19 update. The town HR department released, effective yesterday, the new CDC guidance that we're going to follow. If our employees are fully vaccinated, they are no longer required to wear a mask inside or out. So that's a positive step. If they are not fully vaccinated, they will still continue on to wear a mask if they cannot socially distance. So I am fully vaccinated, and I have a couple spare masks in my car just in case I have to go in somewhere that still requires them, but I'm quite happy to be maskless, and I hope we are truly on the tail end of COVID-19 and we don't have to put it on our agenda moving forward. That would be fine with me.
That would be fine with me. All right, well, I will quickly move beyond that. Building issues update.
So the fire suppression system, the installation is complete. The last step is Fred Lars, the person from the company, has to meet with the fire marshals downstairs before they turn the system on. So that's being coordinated. I spoke with Tony Campanella about automated logic. They're still tweaking some set points, and they had an issue with something at town hall. So they're going to get here for a meeting, like a final meeting, to go over everything. There was a complication with the company that was going to come here to do the carpets in the female locker room. So Tony is working on finding a new company for that. So hopefully that'll get done soon. And then I spoke with Dave Sabini, and they are going to sheetrock the hole that was made for the water injection system. They're going to cover that up. We're pretty confident that that system works. So we're going to fill that hole up.
They left it open just in case there are any issues.
Right. And that is all.
All good there, too. Certified entry testing update.
We had interviews on Monday with 7 lateral entry candidates, and we've identified 2 that would like to move on to see the police commission for advancement to the next step of the process. So,
I think we are scheduled to interview next week. So,
And there are 2 openings, correct?
yes.
Correct.
so we will see how that works out.
We are not unique. My compatriots across Fairfield County and the state are all in the same boat, trying to determine effective and proper candidates for these positions. The day of having hundreds of applicants is gone, for at least for now. So the fact that our panel here, our internal panel, identified 2 viable candidates to come before you and the police commission is heartening for me. Hopefully, we're all good there, and we can bring on 2 additional fully certified officers. Significant savings for the town for training, and we have somebody that has a little bit of a proven track record, so far so good.
How about the open dispatcher position?
That's out on
That's posted. I'm not sure what the ending date is.
ending date, so.
Getting good applicants, or
I don't know yet. I don't think the tests are made available yet to them. There's 2 test dates that they have to show up for. Well, they only have to take 1 test, but there's 2 dates available, so I think when those dates pass, we'll start to see some applications.
fair?
Once we get that position filled after the start of fiscal '22, on July 1st, we will then begin our process to bring on the 3 additional dispatchers effective on or about January 1st. So that was approved in the budget, so we'll move on that after the fiscal year starts.
Hopefully the 2 will be acceptable to the commission and all that, but I did want to put on the record that I don't think in my time here I've ever interviewed 2 people for 2 spots. So it is, even in the Durian Police Department, it is getting seemingly more difficult. We are not interviewing 5 people for 2 spots. We are interviewing 2 people for 2 spots.
Well,
So,
I had this conversation yesterday as far as the Connecticut State Police. They're going to be promoting captains. They have more positions than candidates. So we're not alone.
No, we're not alone, but it's not out there, it's here as well. So hopefully we will continue to attract the high-level people that we do, but we certainly aren't attracting them in the numbers that I'd like to see. So hopefully
It's true.
this too shall pass. Any other old business? New business. We seem to have, everything is falling under traffic today. So speeding, request for crosswalks on Holmes Avenue. I know Chief, Captain, Commissioner have all been involved. Who wants to take the lead on it? Brent?
Why don't I touch upon it and then welcome, certainly comments and discussion around it. David Martin is here as well. He attended the meeting. So yesterday, myself, Jamie Stevenson, and David Martin met with the neighbors on Holmes Avenue that expressed some concerns about speeding, the speeding issues on their block and just around the community there in general. I think it was a very productive conversation in reaching out to the community. It was led by a gentleman by the name of Michael Cortese, and there were other neighbors that were there as well. Probably about 4 or 5 other neighbors, I think, had attended, so it was a good showing. Overall, first of all, Captain Shredders, I just want to thank you on behalf of the commission. It was clear from my perspective and the commission, as well as with the neighbors, that you quickly responded to their requests, particularly with the speed bollard that's out there today, as well as with the speed study that you did pretty immediately, so thank you for that. So without getting into the details of each issue, because we could be here for some time, but from a 30,000-foot overview, and Dave, welcome any comments if I miss anything here, we discussed a number of different things. Number one, speed bollard, whether or not that's been effective or not in helping reduce speed on the block. They have
Just
put in.
explain that real fast. Like, I don't think everybody knows exactly what a speed bollard is.
Sure, a speed bollard basically put in the middle of the road. It's a slow sign that's there. Basically, it's a calming device to help slow down traffic. So there, you'll see them around town. They tend to be reflected in the evening, yellow, with a black bottom to it. Importantly, many of the neighbors like that. We get a tremendous amount of requests for those, as you may know. We're in limited supply with them as well. I'll defer to you, Captain Shredders, in terms of what we do or do not have today. Some neighbors, though, admittedly do not like having them, in their community. So that's something we need to take into consideration. So we do have a speed bollard there today between on Holmes and Middlesex, and there is a request to put an additional bollard to really balance the street out, if you're familiar with the neighborhood, between Holmes and West Avenue. So that's something for discussion. Additionally, we discussed the pros and cons and the criteria that we consider in establishing crosswalks, where I don't believe today we have that in any residential community, but that's something else to pursue or have a discussion around. Third, we discussed speed humps. Again, there are pros, there are cons to that, but as another traffic mitigating, something else that we could consider for the community there. Also, the traffic study that we did there was during, was in October, so it was during COVID, I'd say a deeper COVID situation than what we're in today. So they had suggested that we do another traffic study out there to see if any of the results have changed. The speed study at the end of the day, again, I'm not going to get too detailed on all the specifics. It was over a 3-week period, done back in October. We had about 17,000 cars go through there, and the average speed was in line with actually the speed limit of the block at 25 miles per hour. I can elaborate on that or defer to Captain Shredders to get more specific there as well. So that's something else for us to consider, doing an additional speed study, somewhat post-COVID. There was also a request about a reduction of the speed limit from 25 to 20, so we discussed that to an extent as well. Another mitigating factor that we had discussed are fog lines. Also, the importance of the neighbors agreeing whether or not they would want fog lines and the benefits, the benefits of that as well. A couple other things that Jamie had suggested and David had included in this conversation as well was the continuation, less to do with our commission, but the continuation of sidewalks in the community, the potential for a median, which is something DPW would be highly involved with, as well as one of the very productive things that came out of it was to do a slow down around town campaign, which the commission obviously can get involved with, the RTM and others as well. So the key takeaways are, that's a 30,000-foot overview, but the key takeaways are this potential for a new initiative in town, slow down around town campaign. For the commission specifically, a request for an additional bollard. Michael Cortese is going to discuss with his neighbors, whether or not fog lines are something that they would like to consider. I don't know if we looked at that in the past. I'll defer to the chief and captain for that. And the potential for an additional speed study. Since we are on camera, I do want to remind the neighbors very specifically, right now, legally, they have parked the cars in the road. And what that has done, it has slowed down traffic. But the negative to that is cars that are coming by, it has clearly blocked the line of sight. In particular, we had a large discussion around the safety of children when you're blocking the line of sight, from the curbs, the sidewalks, et cetera. So with that being said, David, did I miss anything from your perspective? If not, I'll just open it up for discussion here.
The only other thing that was talked about is the gentleman who lives right on the corner of Holmes Court and Holmes Avenue said that the stop sign that is there, there are frequently people who sort of, I won't say blow through it, but roll through it. kind of thing. And he said that the paint that is there is sort of tired. So, you know, to the extent we could look at, you know, sort of refreshing the paint there, that's kind of an easy fix thing, which might help, might not, but, you know, that would be one thing. And the only other thing I would say is, Michael said several times that the neighbors are looking to the experts to study the options and, you know, make a recommendation. I'm sure he will be happy to corral or to build a consensus amongst his neighbors, but they're sort of open to any suggestion and looking to the people who know about these things to give them some ideas and sort of narrow the field, right? Because we talked about many things yesterday. If we could sort of narrow that list of the things that you all think are the most practical, then we can put Michael to work getting the neighbors to agree.
So Captain, I don't know if you have anything else to add, otherwise I'll just open it up for discussion here.
Well, for starters, just one of the simplest things first, as far as speed limits, the state does not allow any speed limit sign to be lower than 25 miles an hour. So I know if you drive around town, you're going to see some streets that do have 20-mile-an-hour signs. Those are grandfathered in, but we cannot change the speed limit on any street in town back down to 20 miles an hour.
Without state approval, right?
They will not issue a 20-mile-an-hour sign anymore, even after doing a speed study. Intentionally, you cause everyone to become a scofflaw. No one out there is driving 20 miles an hour.
And is there potential, if you did request the state to come in, is there potential the state would actually increase the mile per hour on that road or another road?
It depends on the street. Like just taking the Post Road, for instance, or any generic street. If you do a speed study, you know, for over a course of time, and say it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone, but the average speed you're getting is 30 or 32, and that's in the 85th percentile, there's a chance that they could raise the speed limit to 30 miles an hour.
So that would not have a positive impact.
So if we did another speed study on Holmes, and the average speed is 28, 29, and you know, state DOT came in and did an official speed study on Holmes Avenue, there is the possibility they could raise the speed limit there to 30. They're not,
At least recommend to the LTA
Yeah.
that would be there,
Yep.
right? It's a conjunction effort, right? The state's not going to come down and ram any speed limit through. We work closely with the LTA, the local LTA. But they do base it on statistical data, it's not, you know, the data is what the data is. If the 85th percentile on a road is 42, they're going to recommend that the road gets raised from 35 to 40, like for US 1. That's a foregone conclusion, because they do put a lot of, even experts, you know, the traffic engineers, which we are not traffic engineers, put high regard in driver behavior, right? That if the speed is that speed, most reasonable people are driving at a speed they find comfortable, right? So I think if you drive through most municipalities that have US 1 in the state of Connecticut, very few are posted at 35. They're just not. They're posted at 40, so.
Well, I'm going to assume that it will not go up, but the option of going down sounds like that is off the table.
That's not-
So that, I don't think we will go up, but
I have no problem.
going down is not an option.
You know, putting another bollard out there. In fact, we had 2 out there last year. The problem is we have limited bollards. We get budgeted a certain amount of money from the town to purchase signs and bollards a year. As you said, a lot of residents, while some appreciate these bollards, a lot don't. A lot are thrown into the water or thrown into the bushes. Some are stolen. So it's a juggling act based on the amount we have at the time. And then Officer Isaac, based on his quantity, he has to rotate them throughout the town. After July 1st, the budget resets and I can purchase more bollards. But I will definitely try to get another one on Holmes Avenue. So I don't think that'll be a problem.
As far as the speed study, to replicate it, I have absolutely no aversion putting in the speed counting device down there again for a period of time. And we'll see what the data suggests.
Currently, we're using it on the speed study device on their own avenue. So when Officer Isaac has completed that, we'll go back down to Holmes and set it up there again.
So much traffic now, post-COVID, probably all slows down.
And the last study
It's
was
crazy.
The last study was 17,000 cars, so it was a pretty good sampling.
Pretty good sample.
All right, so I think next steps here, I mean, I think that's terrific. We can put that out there, you know, get the speed study done at the appropriate time. And then we'll hear back from the neighbors as well in terms of their thoughts on other things such as fog lines as an example.
Yeah, in the neighborhood there, just to go back a little historically speaking, at Holmes Court and Holmes Avenue, that was an unregulated intersection. There were no stop signs there. But because of vehicle conflicts and near misses and people going through that S-curve, what was perceived at least to be an extended period, extended speed, we put the stop signs in there because there was a demonstrable reason to put them there. There was vehicle conflict. Who had the right of way? Who was there first? Am I supposed to stop or are you supposed to stop? We put those stop signs in and they've been largely effective as far as that section goes. We did offer the residents at the time that when Holmes Avenue and the stretch between Middlesex down to Rose Lane, I think the whole thing was repaved. Just so, as a point of record, somebody might be watching on TV, and I say this quite often, the state of Connecticut follows the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The Connecticut DOT and any subdivision like our local legal traffic authority is obligated to follow the MUTCD, which we do. The MUTCD is clear that when a roadway is resurfaced, if there is going to be any yellow line on that road, it has to be a double yellow line. A single yellow line that you see on some of our streets that have been here for years, they're grandfathered in. When the road is resurfaced, if there is a line, it has to be a double yellow line. The neighbors on Holmes Avenue in that section back when that was redone were unhappy that a double yellow line was going in there. They didn't want a double yellow line. There was an issue with speeding back then, which we addressed with the bollards, but we also gave them the opportunity to put in the fog or the delineation lines, which are the white lines on the edge of the road. We can bring them in, the DPW can paint them closer so you're narrowing the effective lane, which is a proven, maybe subconscious, traffic calming. It's not as wide as it appears to be when you truncate down the road a little bit. They certainly did not want those delineation lines on Holmes Avenue at that point. I don't know if that's changed now today because I think that road probably had to have been paved. I don't know. I lose track of time. 6, 7, 10 years ago. I'm not sure exactly when it was. But, you know, it is an option. And when you have those lines delineating the travel portion for vehicles, you do have a wider section for potentially a bicycle or a jogger who's, you know, there. Get a little bit better aisle of safety.
But it does change the look of your
It
road.
changed the looks of the road. Is it more industrial? It's not the bucolic country back road. It's not. And I see the reasons behind it.
And we also discussed, it's not just Holmes itself, but it's a neighborhood community there where folks on Intervale may want to weigh in on that as well, right? Because it has a more commercial look by putting the lines in. We really want to see
And when you
the neighbors
change,
favor
when you
something
change
like that.
traffic flow, either by stop signs or by speed humps or by something, that shifts the traffic to another street largely. And clearly, if you put speed humps on a road, it does shift some of the traffic to an adjoining road. You know, Middlesex Road has been posted as no through trucks forever. Under the MUTCD and state regulation, we can't post Holmes Avenue as no through trucks because you cannot post an adjoining street as no through trucks. So it's kind of who got to the dance first sometimes, right? You have to have some mechanism, some avenue for trucks, legitimate trucks, to move through your community, whether you like it or not. That's the way it is. So it's a juggling act. It's a balancing act. We love to keep our people safe, right? This is what we do. And sometimes people think we're being unreasonable when we make the decisions we make, but it's not because we're not concerned about traffic safety and pedestrian safety. We clearly are. Just one more quick thing on the crosswalk. And I had this discussion going back 5 chiefs. It is not going to Rings End and getting a gallon of white paint and a roller and painting the crosswalk. Engineering is required. A formal blueprint is required, and under the MUTCD and the ADA Compliance Act, you have to put in concrete handicap ramps, you have to put in what's called tactile truncated cone warning devices, which are the things that blind people or visually impaired people can feel it underfoot. So a crosswalk, any crosswalk that we put in, the minimum cost of a crosswalk is between $5,000 and $7,000. That's from the DPW. I didn't make that number up. That is an accurate representation of what it costs to put in a crosswalk on any street with the required devices. So, just like the people to know that, it's not the
He's
chief
just
or the
painting
captain
some lines.
has a paint roller and we roll the paint down, right? That's associated signage and that's the devices and the engineering required to put it in. So,
Okay.
Okay, well, Brent, thank you for your work, and we
Yes,
will
thank you.
keep,
The first selectman did call me and say, thank you for your being out there yesterday. She was very happy for a member of the commission to be there to have the discussion. We're always willing to have the discussion, so thank you.
I agree.
Before you move on, can I just ask?
Sure.
So what do you guys think would be the appropriate next step? Because I'm sure Michael is going to want to know what, what comes next.
Huh?
Sounds like bollards,
I
it
think
sounds like
The
traffic.
bollard and the traffic study y'all are going to do. As, with regards to the refreshing the paint by the stop signs, do you guys do that?
The
Does
town-
Ed do that?
The town does repainting all over town once a year, as soon as, I believe the temperature's fine now, so they're gonna be out painting. That's a schedule the DPW follows.
Hey,
And as far as the crosswalk, my concern, and the chief and I have discussed this at length, we're saying at one hand, there's a speeding problem on Holmes Avenue, but yet we wanna place a crosswalk right in the middle of that alleged speeding problem, essentially encouraging people to cross at that location. Crosswalks aren't used as a calming device. There's a false sense of security that's created by a crosswalk.
Not always, but the experts
But-
clearly say, sometime there is. Because
And
you-
there are different studies that show that it's dangerous to put a crosswalk at a location where there's infrequent amount of crossers, because drivers just aren't paying attention and they're not expecting someone to cross there. I've been to that location myself many times, right? When you're on the east side or the north side of the street, or any side, getting to that other side of the street, if you stop and look both ways, you can 100% cross that street safely. That is not a dangerous location to cross. It's just not. If you're having a near miss there, or if I've heard, there's been near misses there, in my opinion, the only way that can happen is if you are stepping into the street at the wrong time, expecting or assuming that that car that's coming is going to stop for you. That's not how you were supposed to stop, cross the street. You're supposed to stop, whether there's paint in the roadway or not, and look both ways. It's clear, I'm gonna cross. I don't care what type of paint you put in the roadway, what type of signage. Paint and signage does not replace common sense and personal responsibility. The onus is on the driver and the shared responsibility of the pedestrian, right? As far as children, and I say this as a father, I have 2 little girls. I lived on a fairly busy street, right? My children were not allowed to go to the mailbox to get the mail. They were not allowed to go past a certain tree in the front yard. They were not allowed to go out and play in the yard unless myself or my wife was with them, okay? That's parental responsibility, right? Many times I drive around this town and I see parents and grandparents walking on a very busy street and they have a toddler about 10 or 15 feet in front of them. That toddler can dart out into that street at any moment. You have to be in control of your children. You have to be holding their hand. You can't be inside your home on Holmes Avenue or any other street, watching TV or doing whatever, making dinner, and your children are left unaccompanied on the front lawn, right? If you think the street is that dangerous, you should be out there with your children. The child should not have an opportunity to dart out into the street. You have to be in control of your children, right? And I say that as a father,
No,
right?
that's fair enough, and I think Michael was looking for guidance, right? So that's good guidance, and that's good information.
The police department, we can't be everywhere at once. We need,
Would it be helpful at this point for Michael to do sort of a reasonable size sample of neighbors regarding the opinion about the fog lines? My impression is putting down the fog lines is probably the easiest and least expensive, option beyond the ballards, right? So, and if yes, do you have like an idea of sort of how big a sample size would be good enough?
I would say you need, You're talking about the approval of crosswalk?
No,
No, fog lines.
Specifically.
From listening to you all talk,
Yeah.
my general perception is the fog lines have been proven to be effective. They're probably the easiest thing to do and potentially the least expensive. So, but you definitely want a consensus of the neighbors, right? So I was thinking that Michael might be able to do a sample, right? To sample everybody in the neighborhood at this time would be arduous, right? But to get a reasonable sample size of a certain number of homes, whether it be, 20% of the homes, 50% of the homes, you guys.
The problem with getting a limited sample size, in my opinion, and I'm never gonna know more than the chief in this. He's done, my position a lot longer than I've been in it. You get some people that are all for all these types of safety measures, and then you get some people that are against it because of property values or the way it looks in the community. I can guarantee you, if you put fog lines in and you don't survey everybody on the street, I'm the one that's gonna get the call saying that they're unhappy with it. It looks terrible. My property values are gonna be down.
And no one asked me.
That's the same thing with the speed humps. It's the same thing. If you put a crosswalk in there and you get the paint, the new sidewalks, the signage, and it's gonna look like a downtown city block, I guarantee you people on that street, someone is gonna be complaining.
All right, so it sounds like at a bare minimum, you would want him to contact every resident on Holmes Avenue.
I would like to hear from them, yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know how many people that-
I'm assuming we should include Holmes Court, because it's not very many houses and it feeds immediately into Holmes Avenue. What about other surrounding streets that you think should be required to be part of that sample?
Yeah, in that case, delineation lines like that are unlike speed humps, where speed humps are going to divert traffic to other adjoining streets. That's what they tend to do. The lines really wouldn't do that. So I think if we got input from
start
the
with
residents
Holmes.
on homes, and we've had, what we do, what I typically do is this: if someone goes out with a neighborhood petition and somebody signs the petition, I also follow up, when I was in Captain Schroeder's position, with a follow-up letter directly to the residents. Because we've had numerous times where I've had residents say, listen, I signed it because I didn't want my neighbor to be mad at me, but I really don't want it. I signed the petition, but now that you're calling me, the answer is I really don't want it. So we do our due diligence on that as well.
And David, I think that was where we last left it as well. He was gonna have that discussion with neighbors on fog lines specifically.
So if he's willing to put in the legwork, getting a petition with names and addresses so that you guys can contact them subsequently, would be his next active step.
I think that's a fair next step.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted,
Yeah, no, I
I wanted to give him
appreciate-
something, that if there's something that he could do that might be helpful, give him that guidance.
And then we'll move forward with the bollard as soon as we have one available,
Yeah.
as well as the speed study one available.
Yeah, all right, so we got the ball rolling, and I will, shoot a quick email to Ed and say, hey, there is this other conversation going on, when you guys get out and painting,
Yeah.
would you please consider looking at the stop, by the stop sign?
Bob and Ed and Bob, all of us up here, we work very well with the DPW. Any reasonable request that we make of them, they get it done. So I'm assuming this would be something that we could get done in short order.
Okay, great, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Captain Shredders, thanks for
No problem.
for your input and your insight.
Moving on. Excellent. Durian High School Car Parade.
I will shunt this over to Captain Marin, the Durian High School Car Parade.
Yes,
Return the
We're
gate.
back in the parade business.
I guess so, yeah. So last year, in lieu of a in-person graduation, they had a car parade, which stepped off from the parking lot of Middlesex Middle School in lieu, because of COVID. There was no school in session, so it kind of worked that way. It was kind of a long train, and it got a little messy as far as traffic congestion, but we managed. We had some officers assigned to it. They're requesting to do that again this year. However, they want to step off from the eastbound lower lot of the Heights train station. They would then exit the Hollow Tree Ridge roadside and head north on Hollow Tree, obviously
Past
passing
Middlesex.
several intersections there. So we've told them that we're gonna need to hire back several officers to man those intersections. And I think with the commission's approval to allow the parade in the first place, we could probably handle that. The one other kind of conflict we had is the parade of cars was so long. Cars were still coming out of the Middlesex School lot, yet they had already gone through the loop of the high school, came out the back entrance of the high, and were coming back down, feeding back into the parade again. So we've instructed the school administration that when the cars exit the high school in Nutmeg, they're gonna have to take a right and go north on Olive Tree, rather than come back to where it's
Extended.
originated from. So I think we'll be able to handle that. Again, we made the recommendation. It wasn't followed too closely last year, but they decorate the cars. We want to make sure that the windshields are free of obstructions, and, you know, all occupants of the vehicle need to remain inside the vehicle, which was a little bit of a problem last year, but we'll reinforce that again this year. And I apologize, I don't have the dates in front of me, because there's 3 different things happening at the high school in the first couple of weeks of June. You have the car parade, you have the graduation. Graduation's gonna follow suit kind of as it has in years past. They're gonna have an in-person graduation. And we will have a temporary parking and traffic plan in place, and several officers staffing that. And then one new event they're having on the property itself is they're gonna hold prom on the grass fields near the tennis courts in the upper lots of the high school. They're gonna have tents and a DJ and that type of thing, so we'll be present for that as well.
Pray for
Back in
no
business.
rain.
We're back in business,
Yeah, you know, the
which
car-
is
the
good
car-
to see.
The car parade, I'm okay with the car parade. This has been a tough year. I mean,
It's-
we get them on a car parade.
I was hoping that we did it last year, because last year was a tough year,
Yeah,
and we're
well,
still in
I
it,
think
so
we're-
hopefully,
I don't think we're gonna approve this in perpetuity, but I think for
Well.
this year, we can certainly
let's see how it goes.
get some
One year at
smiles
a time.
going from some people. Actually see their faces without
Oh.
masks. So,
Please. Are you just informing us, or do you need us to approve a car parade?
I guess a formal approval would be in order.
We don't have the date, so I will assume you can insert that, but
Yeah.
I move that we approve the Durian High School car parade for the class of 21. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Good thing is it doesn't require any road closures, right? We'll manage it, we'll get them in, we'll get them out. And the other schools have them as well, right? Even the elementary schools are having something where they're driving through the schools, but we'll get it done.
Okay. Remaining on the topic of parades, Memorial Day Parade update.
Well, we're
have a
approaching
permit?
it quickly. It was sprung on us in the 11th hour, but parade organizers feel as though they can get the required arrangements in place before Memorial Day weekend. We have a requirement of 29 officers that are gonna need to staff the event.
Are we Sunday again? We're Sunday, right? Monday?
Monday.
We are Monday.
Yeah, Memorial Day itself.
Oh, that's right, we're waiting this Sunday. On
Right now, it's looking like we're gonna have to order back a significant number of officers for that day. But it is what it is, we'll get it done. As far as permitting and permissions, and I think they're pretty much, timeline is,
The state took pity on us, I guess. They issued us a permit in record time, so Jan usually, I think, applies for it in February or March. And this year, we applied for it in May and got it done in, I don't know, Jan got it done in maybe 10 days or
The
less.
town thanks you, Jan.
My money was always on Jan to deliver this.
She gets it done.
I had no doubt.
She probably arm wrestled him a little bit, but she got it done. So that's another positive step forward for the town of Darien, let's face it, right? Memorial Day Parade is some semblance of normalcy returning, and people can see it, people's faces, and have a cup of coffee, and starting the steps back to getting back to regular. So I look forward to marching in my first
I
parade
was
as
just
chief.
gonna
'cause
say.
I didn't get to do it last
The
year.
chief
so.
gets to march.
I've always marched, but this year I'll be marching as the chief, so.
Okay, I don't think we,
I'll be
certainly
there.
don't need to approve that. It's just happening, and we shall put on our sneakers and be excited to march along with you. Is that all for traffic? Step increases for Lieutenant Aaron Zullo, Sergeant Mulcahy, and Sergeant Scombros.
As the commission knows, unlike the non-ranking officers in the police union who get raises contractually, ranking officers' raises and step increases are based on merit and just not simply on time. So Lieutenant Aranzulo, Sergeant Mulcahy, Sergeant Scombros are due for their merit step increases. I heartily recommend to the commission that all three of these officers are doing stellar work. Have no reservations, nor do my fellow administrators here for recommending that they get their step increases.
Can I do them all at once?
Now, you certainly can.
Okay. I move that we approve step increases for Lieutenant Aranzulo, Sergeant Mulcahy, and Sergeant Scombros, effective, doesn't matter. June 2nd. Second,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It is a regular meeting, we can add if
Yep, so-
anyone wants to chat about anything.
I certainly want to take this opportunity, when talking about promotions and step increases, to proudly announce today that the Police Commission promoted Officer Maurizio Vigil to the rank of sergeant effective this Sunday, and Sergeant Andrew Mastriani to the rank of lieutenant, also effective this coming Sunday. Both are excellent candidates that are going to serve the town of Darien very well in the years to come. As always, the commission is, I think, a little bit spoiled to have choices, always have very, very highly qualified, motivated employees to be seeking these positions. Both of these officers are going to do a fantastic job in their new roles. I'm very, very proud of them, and I'm glad to be part of a promotional process. It does keep the department moving into the future. It does give people a sense of that they can get ahead, and this is all due to the retirement of Lieutenant Patone, opening up a lieutenant's and sergeant's position. Lieutenant Patone was here, like me, for 38 years, and he has moved on. We have the opportunity to bring some new blood into the supervisory ranks. Again, absolutely no qualms of both of these officers performing stellarly in their new positions. So
Hear,
thank you
hear.
to the commission for getting that done, and we will move forward into the future. These are the officers that are the future of the department. So fine job. That's all I have.
It's been a good day. Okay. With that, we must set our next meeting date,
When would be our next regularly meeting, Jan?
2 weeks from today,
First Thursday, June.
June 3rd?
June 3rd.
Good for me.
I think that is fine. Yes? Anyone? We just need two out of the three of us.
I am good for June 3rd.
I will be on the flying car, but I can sure probably bring it here. Thursday, Thursday.
Well,
Fine.
we'll put it in and
Yep.
hope we have all three of us. I don't see anything on the agenda that is, that if you couldn't make it, we
Okay.
would not be able to carry on. Okay, June 3rd, 4 PM here. And if there is no other business, stand adjourned.
I'll get you the gavel.